Yo, what's good, Joe? It's John. Today I want to really talk about the shadow, right? So a lot of the time I talk about a lot of higher concepts. I don't really talk about your shadow like that. Your shadow is simply the hidden parts of yourself that you kind of really don't like to look at, whether that's your controlling habits, your impulsivity that kind of leads you into dangerous situations. Just really the part of yourself that a lot of people really don't like and they don't like to acknowledge like that. And conquering your shadow is really one of the most important things that you could do, right? If you ever seen Bleach, it's really like your inner hollow. And in Bleach, Ichigo has demon powers, right? Demon really just means lower self, or kind of like lower desires like hate, anger, killing intent, things like that. And he really spoke to me throughout his journey, and that's why I got inspired to make this video, because throughout the series he really gripes with using his hollow powers to win his battles, like really struggling to accept that this is part of him and there's nothing he could do to separate himself from it, to the point where he would rather lose than use this. And I've experienced a lot of similar points in my life to where I felt like I had to use my higher self and not my lower self or my shadow. And really, that's a lack of integration and a lack of self-acceptance. And being that I was projecting myself so deeply, it led me to a lot of pain and heartbreak, because I couldn't accept that the hidden parts of myself were okay and they needed to be accepted and not rejected but controlled, bro. A lot of people have a problem. This is also why some people will kind of become more aware and then turn themselves away from their own spirit, because they cannot accept their own demons and they cannot accept their own shadow. You feel me? They cannot accept that they have hatred or anger or a lot of lower self emotions towards certain things, certain people. They can't accept their past. They might have been traumatized, they might have been wrong, they might have been whatever might have happened to them. They can't really accept that this is part of who they are. So when it comes to your shadow, you really just have to accept that that's you, bro. Just as much as all the love and light and higher knowledge and peace and love, if that's really where you are with things, you have to accept that you have a shadow, and your shadow has to be acknowledged and used, bro. Your shadow's there to protect you. Your shadow's there to channel that fire through, channel that primal energy, that part of yourself that you really need to get things accomplished in the physical sense, because your shadow self really comes from your physical nature. It really comes from physical experiences, physical gripes, physical loves and things that you can't really separate yourself from like that, or haven't been able to in the past, whether that's lust, whether that's greed, whether that's sloth. The 7 deadly sins are really about your lower self, bro, and letting your lower self overtake you to the point where it becomes the object of your search for God. Because really God is within, and God is your higher self or your soul, and your lower self, which is the devil, which is your lower impulses. So when you conquer both of these things and use them in unison, you use your higher self and your lower self in unison to get things accomplished in the physical world. You're operating as a complete being. And when you're operating as a complete being, you get the most done and you're the most alignment with yourself, bro. And you can't really allow yourself to get to the point where you shun either part of that, because we've all been to the point where we've lived in our shadow. I've been to the point where I've lived in my shadow. I've been through things to the point where I didn't want to look at any higher aspect, because I wanted to remain in the lower emotions that I felt, whether that was my hatred, my anger, my irritation with the world, my rejection of those who were separate from me, those who were separate from me, those who were different from me, those who didn't see life the way I did or didn't treat me the way I wanted to be treated. You can't shun either part of yourself. You have to, in a sense, conquer your inner hollow, like Ichigo did, bro, or really any other anime protagonist. All these different shows that a lot of people like to watch, where like Naruto, like Dragon Ball Z, it's about conquering your primal self to achieve higher things. And that's really what's most important for people like you and me, who are aware of both of these parts of ourselves, because there is no reason why you should feel like you can't look at that part of yourself if you fully accepted it. Because when you fully accept it, you see it as you, and you can't reject that, which allows you to achieve so much more in the physical realm. Because really that's all we're here to do, is create explore, grow, and evolve. And you need all of yourself to do that, bro. And honestly, I've been through things to the point where I felt like I couldn't accept either side of myself, and that kind of puts you in a state of detachment. Some people like to call it derealization, where you feel like you're in another person's body or you're living someone else's life, because you become so detached from yourself as the observer that you can't identify with either side of yourself. And at that point, people like to call that rock bottom, bro. When you're so detached and you're so damaged that you feel like there's no other route but for you to kind of withdraw from the experience and just kind of let your body go. And I feel like when you get to that point, it really comes to a head that you have to rebuild yourself from the ground up, and that starts with your lower self, bro. Your lower self is at the bottom. You got to form yourself from the bottom up. A lot of things, reality itself is manifested from the top down, from source energy to physicality. And when you're at rock bottom, you got to build yourself up from physicality back to your source energy, bro. And I was at the point, even recently, even six months ago, bro, I really thought I would be stuck in a life that I had no business being in, had no business stepping my foot into, and it was one of my biggest fears. But I had to face that. I had to face having a family in a situation that was going to be very unbeneficial for those that were involved in it, to understand that in order for me to build what I want to build and be the person I want to be, my shadow, my inner hollow, my lower self cannot operate in the driver's seat, because that's what he was doing. He was driving the car. I was in lust, I was in sloth, and I was in addiction, really. But I never let go of the connection to my spirit. I always meditated. I always grounded as much as I could. I always tried to stay in nature as much as I could, even though I was in a brick, cold, 30 degrees, 40 degrees outside. I did my best to stay the course, and that's how I ended up going from rock bottom and building myself back up to source energy, which is where I am now. And I'm really just making this video to say, don't be scared of your inner hollow, don't be scared of your lower self, don't be scared of your shadow. Accept that, build off of it, and deconstruct and reconstruct it as you need to fit what you need to get accomplished in your physical realm today. Because we all are capable of doing great things, we all are capable of going to great heights, and we all are capable of achieving things that we probably never believed that we could. But all right, y'all, it's John. I'm in DR, bro. I'm chilling.